What if I told you that tracking your cycle could let you know if you have a hormonal imbalance or not, what type of hormonal imbalance it could be, when and if you're ovulating, and when your period will start the day of? If you're new here, hi, my name is Denise. I'm a clinical herbalist, cycle health educator, and a fertility awareness educator in training. Now, if you don't know what that last one is, don't worry about it. We'll cover it in today's video. Now, when I talk about tracking your cycle, a lot of people just think that it is just tracking their period, how much they bled, how many days it lasted, and that's kind of the gist of it, and they put that in a period app. What I'm talking about is tracking your full entire cycle from one period to the next. Tracking your full entire cycle gives you a lot more information than just tracking when your period is. It lets you know the day of when your bleeding will start, if and when you're ovulating. Now, if you haven't seen my previous videos, do definitely check them out. But in essence, ovulation is more than just for reproduction. Ovulation is necessary for our overall health. We need to ovulate to be able to produce progesterone, which helps counteract the effects of estrogen. If you're currently having a hormonal imbalance, you do definitely want to make sure that you are indeed ovulating, because just because you got your period doesn't necessarily mean that you ovulated. It also gives you a lot more context for your cycle. Sometimes in your cycle, pre-ovulatory, you'll have a little bit more energy than you would in your post-ovulatory phase. Parts of your cycle, you'll be a lot more energetic, while other parts of your cycle, you won't. Sometimes you'll have a little bit more libido, while other times you have less. And having the context as to why behind that is a really good, helpful way to be able to be more in harmony with your body. Because of that wax and wane of hormones, we kind of have a built-in rest period where part of our cycle we are a lot more outgoing, productive, going out there and doing things. But in other parts of our cycle, our body wants rest, and it has that way of a built-in mechanism so that we do get that rest so we don't get burnt out or tired. It also gives us a good idea of when or not we're fertile or not, which is important to know regardless if you want to have kids or if you don't want to have kids. Okay, so let's first start out with what exactly is cycle tracking, or what method we could use for cycle tracking. Now, the method that I would recommend is the fertility awareness based method. Now, a couple of definitions. Fertility awareness in itself is more of a lifestyle. It's learning to embody those ebbs and flows of hormones and energy, and kind of working with your body depending on how it's feeling. Going with how you feel during that phase, specific day, and working with your body instead of trying to force things. And then there's the fertility awareness based method, which is the method of itself tracking where you are in your cycle. Now, tracking your cycle itself is really easy. All you need is a basal body thermometer, somewhere to put that information, so either a paper chart or an app, and then just your awareness on a daily basis. Now, the basal body thermometer takes your at rest temperature. So it is your temperature first thing in the morning before you move around, wake up. That is your baseline temperature, and that will fluctuate depending on where you are in your cycle. For example, during your pre-ovulatory phase, those temperatures will be relatively pretty low. And then once you ovulate, those temperatures will spike up due to progesterone being the dominant hormone. This will let you know what day you've ovulated and that you have indeed ovulated. Now, the second part of this charting is charting your cervical fluid, and that's where your awareness comes in. So if you don't know what cervical fluid is, it is essentially that kind of wet stuff that you notice mid-cycle that you get a lot of, and sometimes you think, oh no, I started my period, because it like almost gushes out of you sometimes. That is cervical fluid. Now, cervical fluid is fluid that is produced in your cervix. It is directly impacted by your estrogen levels. Now, the reason that we also want to track our cervical fluid is it gives us a good second reference point to where we are in our cycles, because we do have that peak of cervical fluid during a day or two before ovulation, or sometimes even during ovulation, and then it will usually dry up. Now, there is sometimes some cervical fluid produced in our luteal phase, specifically right before our bleed starts, but that also gives you a good indication to where those hormones are on that second half of your cycle, because when progesterone is the dominant one, there will be rarely any cervical fluid, but when there is a shift where estrogen goes a little bit higher than progesterone, which is good to know if you do have a hormonal imbalance, then you will see a little bit more cervical fluid during your luteal phase. Now, if you're new to cycle tracking, I know this is a lot of information thrown at you at once, so I will have on the screen a couple of really good reference books, really good books overall to learning the method. Now, something that I do want to kind of put out there is that you can use the fertility awareness method as a form of contraception, but to get the efficacy of it, which is 99.6% efficacy, you do want to be working with a fertility awareness educator one-on-one to make sure that you are properly reading your chart, that it is a method that would be good for you. But the reason that I've used it for many years is to better track my hormonal imbalance and make sure that I can course correct before it starts to get a little bit more out of hand. Now, on screen, I will have a couple of really good resources on where you can get more information on how to chart your cycle. And then in the description, I have linked a workshop I did on learning to chart your cycle on a daily basis so you can better look out for hormonal imbalances and just look out for your hormonal health. So, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next time.